What is up, everyone? Welcome to the second episode of the Parks Podcast, where we will be discussing everything Parks car care related, detailing industry related, and in today's case, Labocosmetica related. If you've not watched the first episode, I highly recommend you go check that out. I had Reggie on as my guest for the first episode as well, and we discussed all three different brands of Mafra, being Mafra, Labocosmetica, and Maniac, why they all exist, a little bit of history behind that. It's a great starting point if you've not watched that one already. So thank you for joining me again today, Reggie. Really excited to dive in. Today we're going to be going over the Labocosmetica line. So we're kind of breaking this series up into seasons. So season one is going to be Labocosmetica. Then we're going to do Maniac line. Then we're going to do Mafra. So each season, so to speak, will have multiple episodes in it. And today's episode is going to be the Labocosmetica 3 pH system and 2 pH system. So I, for one, am very excited to dive into this. This is kind of I feel like the product that you guys are really most well known for. It's the one that sort of catapulted y'all here in the US, I feel like. So really excited to learn more about that from you.
100%, man. I can't wait to tell it.
Awesome. Well, I figure we'll start off. We got some really good questions from the first podcast that were submitted to me, and ironically, they actually had to do with the 3 pH system. So,
good. Let's see if we answer the questions first. First of questions. Questions.
Okay.
Important.
Yeah, I've only got 3 here, but they're great questions. So
if we keep under 100 views per video, then we will probably have very short Q&As. And if it expands a little bit, then maybe we have to do separate episodes of Q&A.
Yep, that'd be awesome, man. I'd love that. Even maybe some live Q&A at some point. That'd be sick.
Definitely, I'm going to overload my own YouTube channel for that. Sit down and have the people have the opportunities to ask some questions. But when we do something like this, we are going to go full throttle. So we will focus on the questions alone and then not try to digress on side stories as much. And that will be my challenge the most.
Yeah, totally. It's easy to do. It's easy to do. I'm the same way, man. Okay, so first question is from Chris Turpin. Super long time customer of Parks Car Care. Chris has been a supporter literally since day one. So thank you for submitting these questions, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Said, just watched the podcast. Good work. Very informative. Learned a ton. Interested in learning more about the interior cleaning process you use that replaced your steam extractor. Impressive. Looking forward to the future podcast. So he's referring to 2 pH specifically. When you came out here to train me on the Labo system, we had some really old Mercedes-Benz floor mats. I don't know if you remember those. They were a tan color. They were like super, not like dirty, like full of mud, but like 1980s car, just years of dust, like had probably never been extracted or anything like that. And that for me was like, wow, I really don't see the need to have a carpet extractor anymore. So tell us a little bit about 2 pH.
2 pH. Well, we're going to dive into 2 pH very, very deeply today to find out the history and where it came from and the philosophy. But the idea was that Labocosmetica's main focus is to find solutions that will help the detailer's life. So if we make a good product to clean something, if the processing time is not fast enough, we lose potential. And the goal to develop a 2 pH was to minimize tools. So a wet vac is mostly the highest amount of machinery you would use, something that can suck water, so to speak. Mm-hmm. A normal vacuum, 2 brushes and 2 chemicals. So simplifying something that you were already doing, because the only thing we added was an acidic fabric cleaner. Basically, everybody's doing the same thing, vacuuming the seats and everything first, then brushing it with a special dust brush. Mm-hmm. After that, use a fabric cleaner of any kind, scrub it and rinse it.
And what we did was the dust brush, not to interrupt, that's another one of those things where me being a seasoned detailer, I'm kind of like, all right, brush, whatever. You know, how many carpet brushes have I seen in my life? It's legit. Like, I mean, the thought and the process that you guys put into that with like the stiffer bristles in the center and stuff. I mean, it's just that step alone gets a lot of the contamination out. So it's a nice tool.
Yeah, a good view to see how much contamination is there, how much dust is there. It's going to save you time. It's going to save you chemicals. There's a little bit of extra work, but I calculated even in an extreme vacuum case, you will never spend more than 1 hour on the actual vacuuming extra, but it will save you drying and chemical processing time. So you spend more time in the beginning to save more time at the end. Because
Absolutely.
the cleaner the surface is, the less chemicals we need, the less we need to rinse out, and the less we need to rinse out, the less we need to dry. And therefore, so the entire system from the beginning is already time saving. Who makes that? Who makes a tool? Which chemical manufacturer makes a tool that's saving chemical
How much chemical
usage?
you use?
That's typical Labo. I love that so much. I love that.
I feel like that's the recurring theme with detailing is if you just do the first step thoroughly, you'll save yourself a whole lot of headache and time and heartache later on. Or headache later on. So
But think about your younger. Remember your younger self. Nothing was fast enough. You know, it always needed to be faster. and then when you get older, you become wiser. It's true. It actually is true. Biggest cliche. It's true.
Measure twice, cut once, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, Chris, we'll get more into the 2 pH later into this episode. I'm sure the science behind it and everything else. So. Next question from Chris. Well, actually, it was a series of questions, but I'm going to leave it to one specifically today because I feel like it relates more to the 3 pH system. Is engine bay cleaning and best car shampoo (parentheses) that works well in a foam cannon to deploy the soap before washing.
Okay, good question. I would say, if it needs to be with foam, logically, it's going to be Primus. Logically, then you know for sure that nothing is going to get damaged other than your way to use the water. The chemicals are easily rinsed off. I'm myself not an engine bay detailer much. I'm a little bit of an APC guy, scrub brush and wipe. But if it has to be a shampoo, it would be Primus 2.0. And also because I've seen it a lot being used successfully, although, like I said, it's not my cup of tea. I'm a different type of guy, but the demand of some people want a clean engine bay. Well, if you have to reach that, the time and efficiency, and then Primus is your best choice because anything on the inside of the engine is not as delicate as anything on the outside of the car. I would say. Yeah, I want to say.
That makes sense. And then as far as, because I know Chris, we talk a lot, so I'm sure his follow-up question to that would be, as far as the shampoo that works well in a foam cannon on the outside of the vehicle. Obviously, Semper is not designed for that.
No.
And anyone at home, don't do it. It's so concentrated that it will create a, you'll create more steps for yourself if you do that.
Yeah, it's going to leave a film of surfactants on the car, making it the idea that everything is dead, but it's so concentrated that you have what you normally have with rinses, washing as well. There's this film of lubricants left behind.
Absolutely.
And the more concentrated you go, the more of that film is left behind.
Oh yeah, it's that concentrated. It's incredible. Works great in a bucket though. It's my favorite.
Absolutely, yeah. That's that for tomorrow. For after this podcast, I'm saying tomorrow. I made a video especially for the 3 pH, new 3 pH video, not a new 3 pH video, just to refresh everybody where it all came from and how we did it with the new version, so to speak.
So with that being said, I hope I don't butcher the name. Neve, is that the pH neutral? Neva.
Yeah,
okay, yeah, that's
snow in Latin. Snow.
That's the difference between the Italian pronunciation and the North Carolina pronunciation. So if you're between that and Primus 2.0, I guess my question is, which one, like, is Primus 2.0, is that safe to use just regularly all the time?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, because not Nev, is that right?
No worries. You can't say never.
Neva.
Neve.
Okay.
We can also say Neve.
Okay.
Neve.
That's like a very highly specific circumstance, right? Like it's pH neutral. I imagine it's for like your weekend warrior car that probably is just a little bit dusty. Primus 2.0 would not make logical sense. So, but for the people who drive the car all the time, probably not going to use that as much, right? You're going to be doing more Primus and then Semper in your bucket.
I'll put the question back to you and say, how many customers do you know regularly wash their car? And then take that average. You will find out that most of them have a very low interval, so maybe once a month. So they will probably always need Primus. And then you have a couple of these freaks inside of your customer, and they want to wash every week. And depending on how much they drive, if there's not much dirt, you use an alkaline shampoo because you need it. So Primus, of course, you can use it every day. But if you use it every day, I should rethink how you drive your car. Where are you driving your car? You need to wash it every day. But
no damage done by that, though.
No.
It's just unnecessary. Okay.
Especially designed to clean protected surfaces. That is the reason for Primus is an alkaline shampoo that can clean protected surfaces without harming them.
Okay. Yeah, my customers over the years have fallen into one of two camps. There are some people who are in the middle, but it's typically, we'll PPF the whole car or most of the car or whatever, coat it, and then it just 6 months later, because I tell them no car wash, don't go to the car wash. So they follow that. But then 6 months later they bring it in. I'm like, this car's not been washed, So that's obviously like a bring out everything situation. Or they're the other opposite extreme, which is I'm going to wash it once a week constantly. And so with them, it's like I'm normally having to say, oh, we need to use the most mild methods possible because you're washing it so frequently. It's not necessary to use like a Primus. So well, that leads kind of perfectly into the third question here from Patrick Riviera, another great customer of Parks Car Care. He said, great podcast. I really enjoyed Primus and Purifica, but trying to understand Labo's line of chemicals and make it profitable at the same time. Reading on the forums, I see that some mobile detailers using Labos for car they see every 6 months or so, and another brand of product for maintenance vehicles they see weekly, bi-weekly. So many companies out there now, it's hard to understand what to use. And then he leads into another question. So I'll end it there.
Oh, wow. Now, running ahead into what is going to come out in the future, but that video that I made yesterday for this podcast is exactly what's going to describe that. So the old 3PH is Primus, spray it on, rinse it off, Purifica, dwell it, and then wash it while Purifica is on the car. Now we do, after the pre-wash, we do a contact wash. That's the only thing we changed in the 3PH, because in that contact wash, we need to remove that traffic film that is made out of stuff that is not being chemically removed, needs to be physically removed. So we use the sample for that. And after that, you need to make an assessment if you need Purifica. So instead of we would force you to do a 1, 2, 3 like we used to do. So in the beginning, when everybody needs to get used to the chemicals and get used to the system, it's easier to follow steps. But now we are more mature and we now understand more of how to use these chemicals. Now we change the system by saying, okay, pre-wash first, contact wash, assess if the beading is reducted or is there a reduction in beading than there was before. And if that is the case, then you are going to use your Purifica. And then it comes down to the experience you have, knowing if you know what kind of level of contamination it is and you understand the product, you automatically know the dilution range. And if you don't know that, it comes down to experience. So my rules, if you don't know, start low. And I will also be the first one to admit that if you get this horror case that has not been washed for 6 months, and you do a full 3pH in the full, I will tell you my dilutions is 1 to 10 is the highest dilution I use for unclogging ceramic coatings. Okay. And I apply it in the spray, and I spray it onto the surface. I let it dwell. I wash it. I rinse it. I see improvement or not. I do it a second time. I see an improvement or not. And if I don't see an improvement after the second time, I'm not going to push with Purifica anymore. We have reached the level of what this product can do. Can compare it to an aspirin. You know how much an aspirin can do. If the aspirin doesn't work, you have to go to an antibiotic, and then that will then become the Energo. But then I will not be the first one to say Energo is suitable for all ceramic coatings. Ours, yes. Many I know can take Energo very well, but there are ceramic coatings that cannot take Energo. So I cannot suggest it as an unclogging system. It's a solution for a problem, but
it's by far the most effective water spot remover I've ever used. Chemical like water spot remover.
Also strong. It's very strong.
Crazy good and easy. It's easy to use.
Yep.
So a lot to unpack there. So I can relate to what Patrick is asking, because, and you touched on it really well there, social media, and in this case, the forums, kind of the same thing. I feel like it rewards complexity, and sometimes it rewards complexity it doesn't make sense. It's like more steps does not always equal better. Like complex is better when complex is required, right? Like, and that's, I think that is a misconception, and I'm sure we'll get more into it here in a little bit. With the 3 pH system is people think, okay, it's very rigid. Every time I use this, I have to do all 3. And it's not really the case at all, actually. I mean, you could use one or the other or both, it just depends on what you're dealing with. So kind of to answer his question, or to finish up on that one, I mean, he's basically asking, I see some mobile detailers use Labo for cars they see every 6 months, and then use another brand for maintenance vehicles they see weekly, bi-weekly. And in episode 1, you mentioned how foam gun pre-wash is, likely stronger than Primus 2.0, but Primus 2.0 is the pinnacle in terms of a car with nano protection on it, the safest possible method, while still achieving the cleaning power. So I'm kind of making some assumptions from his questions here, but I'm guessing the maintenance vehicles that he's talking about weekly, bi-weekly, if those don't have nano protection on them, it'd probably be more logical to use Maniac instead of Labo. Okay. From a cost standpoint.
Thank you for the culture in the United States and the rest of the world for adding Primus in your preparation for polishing. But I will said you every single time before, if you're preparing a car for polishing, the goal is to get it clean and then get ready to polish as short as possible. From the time from washing to start polishing needs to be very short. And I love it that you want to use Primus, safe and everything. It's fantastic. But in this case, the goal is cleaning the substrate to get it ready for polishing. We don't then need all these special. You need a little bit of common sense that you're using stronger chemicals, so that don't let dry, not in direct sunlight, not on hot surfaces. Those rules they will always be very important. If you follow them, you will probably be successful with almost all chemicals if you follow the guidelines. And if the car is just coming in for a wash, then you switch to another chemical, so the cost per car goes down. Not because you don't want to demote quality, because foam gun pre-wash is a fantastic product. Used in the right way, it's a fantastic product. And it will give you cost effectiveness, it give you performance, pleasure in working, because that is also the Maniac philosophy. Enjoy what you are using, very important in Maniac philosophy. And then you have to make a choice. So if the budget goes down, I'm going to move to cleaners that can dilute up to 1:60, 1:70, just to get it clean and easily fast, just to save time and money.
Sure. Yeah. And that answers his question really well. I mean, trying to stay profitable at the same time. So not everybody, especially, those who are doing this for a living, you'd be foolish to not take that into consideration. This is smart of Patrick to mention this. I mean, yes, 3 pH Labo is great, but don't use, don't pull the Bentley out of the garage for something that the Civic can get done. Right. Like, why are you using it's overkill.
I don't want to demote Labo. Labo can do everything. That's not the issue. But if you are in a business, the other side becomes important. And if it's just about the best of the best of the best, that is not an issue. But if it becomes money-wise, it's very interesting. But I'm curious how to see the United States market is going to go. I still believe that Labo is a door opener for the rest of the group. And I think eventually, if I look at what the market is doing in the United States, I see that the biggest potential is maybe even Mafra. That guy, I can give him a suggestion of 3 Mafra soaps that he can buy in 40-pound jerry cans, and then dramatically drop it down his cost per car, and can almost do like a 3 pH. Not like a 3 pH, it's using similar pH levels, but not the same performance. But you can do it then in mass quantity. I mean, substitute one of your chemicals for, really want to talk bulk, and you say a gallon is interesting. How about I give you 5 gallons? 5 gallons of a shampoo that you can dilute 1:50. Let's go. You talk about cost per car, you're dropping down in money so hard that you're going to say, I'm going to need some extra employees to use these chemicals.
Yeah, it's going to go bad before I use it all. It's that cost effective.
Yes.
Well, I can guarantee you he's going to follow up with a question of what are those Mafra soaps that you're talking about? So you and I can connect on that later. Maybe I can put you in touch with Patrick. We really need to start a Facebook group, to be honest. I need to get on that and start one where we can answer people's questions, because I get them constantly. That's why I'm always pinging you of all hours of the day. So, well, that's it for Q&A for right now. There's some more, but I'll probably save them for another episode. So we'll wrap that up, and let's get into the 3 pH and 2 pH system, man.
This is it. This is the video. This is the umbrella video. I am not alone in this, of course not. I came into the project 2 years after the project started. I was one of the people that needed to be convinced first, because I don't trust anybody. I will see words leading to action and then start to trust somebody. So I asked the inventor of not only the 3 pH, but also the inventor of Labocosmetica, to ask him to give me the actual story, how it went and why did it went, and what is the backstory, why was it created. The 3 pH that we are talking about today is a 3 pH system that we invented for the maintenance of ceramic coatings. Using 3 pHs in a wash is some concept from an old days. They used it in a car wash. Say 4 different products: alkaline, 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 alkaline. That means that every time alkaline is being hit. So at some point they said we're going to switch to an acid, not because of the cleaning, but to rinse off the alkaline surfactants. So when they go to the alkaline wax would hit better onto the paint. A different way to use 3 pHs. But the 3 pH we are going to talk about today, the history, the philosophy, the reason why, and why then when you understand this story, you automatically understand the rest, the 2 pH, the 2 pH plus, the PPF side. You understand everything. So what I'm suggesting is, I got this text in front of me. I am going to read it. I've already read it for my pronunciation a little bit, and then we are going to jump into, because you told me, and you told me many times before, that you had this hole in your career where you were not able to find out the core of the problems you had. And then a Labocosmetica product came by and showed you something, and then this eureka moment. It's like a mixture of eureka and a depression in a very short period of time. First, you get the eureka moment from, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. It's clearing up. The beats are coming back. And then 2 seconds later, the depression starts, and you think, what I've been doing all these years. I've been doing what I've been doing. The same for the 2 pH. We get that later. It's going to be a long podcast, people. My God, get ready.
I'm excited, man.
Oh, okay. So I gotta calm down, because he's going to kick my ass if I read this too fast. We have done all our best to translate this in the best way, English way, to have a story standing in front of us. So there's less hand movement of the actual person explaining this. There's less passion, although I share a similar amount of passion, but it's not my name on the bottle. I just got the name as the tattoo. It's his name on the bottle, and I think that's a little bit different. If you make something and it's almost like your face is on the bottle, but not the same, but your name is on the bottle, you know?
Hey, I mean, tattoo, that's dedication. That's hardcore.
Yeah. We're waiting for one guy. There's his name is Corey, and I forget his last name. He's United States, big Labo fan. And he's always saying that the biggest Labo fan. One day, if he wants to prove his real Labo family love, then we will see a very small Labo logo somewhere on his body in the form of a tattoo.
There we go.
I'm not alone anymore.
He should
Martin,
get a loyalty discount for life or something.
Yeah. If you get a tattoo, you need something like that. That kind of dedication that doesn't need to go unnoticed. So without further ado, I'm going to start the story of Marco Mattioli when he was thinking about how to make the 3 pH. And I'm going to give the situation, because I'm not going to do the story at once. Every single time, I'm just going to keep looking at the screen. If you want to interrupt me, Nick, please do. If we want to elaborate something, please do, because there's a lot of things. If you don't do it, I will stop and say, my God, I remembered this and remembered this. So,
okay,
you ready?
I'm ready.
Here we go. The 3 pH system was born at a time when the automotive coating market was driven by very aggressive commercial messaging. Protected coatings were being sold with strong claims about durability and resistance, often supported by spectacular demonstration and bold promises. Remember? Lighting the car on fire, using crazy stuff, trying to promote
I forgot about that.
Yeah, but I understand.
That was a wild time.
Flicking it with the lighter, tack, scratch proof and everything.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think there was even some rocks being thrown at stuff. I've
seen it all. Yeah, I've seen it all. But in real world practice, however, many detailers found themselves in an uncomfortable position. After about 6 months, or sometimes after a winter. In many cases, the hydrophobic behavior that had been promised was no longer visible. Been there a lot.
Oh yeah.
Oh, dear God. No, it should be lasting 8 years. Why is the side dying? Why is the hydrophobics not coming? What is going on here? Oh.
Yep.
So the hydrophobic behavior was no longer visible. Beating and sheeting performance dropped, and professionals were left embarrassed in front of their customers. This guy happened to me a lot.
Yeah.
The most common reaction was to try to restore the visual effects by using strong citrus cleaners or quick protective toppers. The effect was temporarily improved, but the root cause was never addressed. And that's how we went through the entire ceramic coating era, hoping that it was staying alive. Even if you survived the application, you delivered a streak-free car, that was already mission accomplished, and then became the praying, I hope this ceramic coating is going to stay alive. But please, please. Here we go. The technical analysis led to a different conclusion. In many cases, the coating was not gone, it was covered. The surface was progressively masked by fine mineral contamination, micro-scale limescale and inorganic deposits, invisible like a film, but capable of altering surface tension and water behavior. Unlike tar or insect residue, this type of contamination is not easily seen. It exists at a micro level, and neutral cleaners did not remove it. Know that for sure. Alkaline cleaners were effective on organic soil and traffic film, but not on mineral deposits. Mechanical tools like clay bars were not appropriate on protected surfaces without risk. Felt that myself as well.
Yep.
The real difficulty was not finding the solution. It was correctly identifying the problem when others did not even see it. Same here. Same for me. At that time, there was also a strong cultural barrier in the detailing world. The word acid was avoided. Softer marketing terms like citrus were preferred, suggesting natural strength without explaining the real chemical function. pH values were rarely declared, and communication was driven by perception rather than mechanism. The approach that led to the 3pH broke this pattern and brought the discussion back to functional chemistry explained in simple terms. I love this story so far. If I get emotional, I'm going to pause. We have to pause because the makeup is still on. It's the camera doing this.
We can edit that out.
I don't look like this in real life, people. This is the camera doing this. There's skin beautification, and I was a little bit tired, so I gave it a little bit of extra. Oh, there we go. The technical foundation of the method is based out of the 5 core chemical tools of cleaning: neutral, alkaline, acid, solvent, and abrasive. The last one is often forgotten. These are 5 different functional levers for 5 different soil families. Using only one for every problem is a methodological error. Alkaline chemistry works on organic contamination and roll film. Acid chemistry works on mineral deposits. Neutral chemistry supports safe maintenance. Solvents and abrasives are specific tools, not universal shortcuts. And the system was built on restoring correct selection and sequence amongst these tools. So use the right tool for the job. Don't bring a knife to a gunfight.
Yep.
And this is a fun story because now it comes my chapter, how I became into this part, because this is the same how to break me from my misconception and I don't believe anything. When it was demonstrated that controlled acid cleaning could remove mineral deposits and restore coating performance without adding any artificial protective layers, the technical interpretation changed. This kind of clear cause and effect explanation without vague language convinced professionals. This happened to me. A key episode in the development of the project was with the meeting with technician Reggy Cox, who later became one of the main technical frontmen of the brand. Still am, thank God. He arrived with some doubts, very many doubts. He arrived with a lot of doubts many professionals had about curing durability. After seeing the technical explanation of mineral masking and the practical demonstration of performance recovery through correct chemical sequencing, aka 3pH, his decision to join the project was based on technical coherence, not marketing claims, aka I needed to see the fucking proof. Oh, sorry.
Hey, that's all right.
Sorry. So I didn't want to say that. We almost broke said, but this is really what it needs to for me. For me, it needs to be convinced. I can like you digitally. We can have great conversation, but I start really liking you when I see that you are like this in real life. So when I'm seeing what I am seeing digitally is the same as what I'm seeing in real life. That is what for me, it's very, very important.
Yeah.
Okay. He arrived with the same doubts about the durability. After seeing the technical explanation, he decided to join the product on technical errors, not marketing claims. Okay. True competence shows when complex chemistry can be explained in a way that was understandable even to a beginner. And at that moment, I was still a beginner because acids and alkalines were dangerous to me. I feared them. I have not seen them being used in a practical way and a safe way and in an effective way. Okay, effective, yes, but not without damaging.
Right.
And from this work came a complete sequential post-coating maintenance protocol. Remember, we started making 3pH first before we made ceramic coatings. That's the biggest difference, that we did not make this to add to our chemical coatings because we already made the 3pH. We tested the 3pH on competitors' coatings to find out if it's really working. Very important. This sequence includes an alkaline phase for organic, so the Primus phase and roid soil, an acid phase, aka PURIFICA, for mineral contamination, and a neutral protective shampoo, in case you want to use a Vitax, or a neutral normal shampoo like Semper as the closing step. This neutral protective shampoo was intentionally included to create a first maintenance service wash after coating application. So the addition to use a topping product in the form. Now, there are a couple of more in Labocosmetica, but the 3pH consists out of Primus, PURIFICA Semper, or Primus, PURIFICA Revitax, where the last one is being substituted without in protection and with protection, if the case is necessary, because it's not always necessary. The sequence was defined as a 3pH and structured as a clear, repeatable wash menu. It was not only an operational method, but also an educational tool. The term 3pH was used to present the process clearly to end customers and teach them how to correctly maintain their vehicles at home. A technical culture chain was created from a manufacturer to the technical distributor, you and me. So how we started as well. From distributor to detailer, and from detailer to vehicle owner. The system was designed not only to clean better, but to explain why cleaning should be done in a certain way. Education became part of the method itself. There's a reason why I spent 4 years in airplanes going back and forth entire world, because I needed to do this live. If I do this from the beginning with a podcast, I could start doing a podcast and try to convince you all with the magnificence and the beauty and the videos, but we did it the other way around. We sent me around the world first, almost preaching like a message. So this is it. I can tell you, because I was a victim, so to speak, as well. I have been victimized by the promises on ceramic coatings. I have been disappointed by maintenance system. I've been disappointed by shampoo. So I was a broken man in the ceramic world when I started to reintroduce myself to something that was actually working. Now, but the 3pH system was formalized and the term registered as a trademark. Yes, people, it's trademarked to protect the protocol naming. The framework was later extended to a 2-phase interior cycle, 2pH, and specific internal multi-pH applications were protected through usage patterns, because glycol, or the use of a glycolic ingredient, something is patented by Labocosmetica since last year.
Wow.
But in the market, similar models are often described using alternative terms, sort of a 2-step, very hot nowadays, 2-step chemistry, 3-step chemistry, or exothermic washes. Expressions used to describe opposite chemical phases without directly interfering the 2pH or 3pH terminology. Basically lifting on other people's successes, inventing stuff. It is what you would call, it's a big compliment to be copied. And it is even a bigger compliment if somebody tries to copy with something that actually works. But it is a bad thing if you try to compare something that is actually real to something that it's not. And that is what you literally spit in the face of the person that created it by saying that your products can do the same thing. If you could say that you have a multi-pH system that you designed yourself, not based out of this, then go ahead and be the one to say it. But first the thing is to say, I'm using an acid, so now I can say 2pH. No, the 2pH or the 3pH was based out of something that we are now explaining. And that is very important because this just did not came out of the air by thinking, hey, how are we going to sell not one shampoo, but 3 shampoos at once? Because that is how people approach this. They were not open to see the possibilities of what was actually possible or what not deemed to be possible at that time. Okay, one more part, last part.
Mm-hmm.
The 3pH system represents a shift in detailing methodology. The product-centric cleaning to method-centric cleaning. It places selective chemistry, simple technical explanation. Okay, I might be a little bit responsible for that, for not making it simple enough. Repeatability of results and the partnership with the professional at the center. No shortcuts for understanding. Not stage effects, but cause and effect. Not marketing first, but method first. This and that is its identity. 3pH, Marco Mattioli.
Wow. Well, huge thank you to Marco for putting that together. That is an awesome history on just the whole how it came to be. And it's kind of wild to think that how many years ago was it developed, or when was it like in the development phase, not yet launched?
I would say, okay,
10 years ago?
Not 100%, but we are at 10. This year,
Okay.
2016, is the 10th year of Labocosmetica.
So the irony of that for me is that's when I began my journey as, detailing for a living. And all the issues that you described, I ran into every single one of them. And I think any detailer who's installed ceramic coatings, especially if you go back 10 years plus, we all ran into these things. And, now I think some people might not want to admit it because people are more up to speed, a big part and due to your guys' 3pH system kind of, redefining how these coatings should be maintained. But if you go back 10 years ago, I was under the assumption, I was always skeptical of coatings, like to the degree at which they were being marketed, right? I'm like, I've been polishing paint long enough to know, like, you're not going to be able to set it on fire and throw rocks at it and scratch it and do all this stuff. But obviously, I still believed in the coating in the sense of like, I'm putting this on to make the maintenance easier. And if you take care of it, it's going to take care of you kind of thing and make the car easier to clean. But I had this, it's very similar to what you described. I had this mentality of like, okay, I put the coating on. I want to use neutral shampoo. Like, I don't want to put acid on it. I don't want to put a high pH on it. That's the whole point of this coating. It's here it should shed this contamination easily. And obviously that was a flawed mindset to have, because the coating does get contaminated. It gets super dirty. But the problem that I would run into is, you use a high alkaline product, say, to get oil and grease and dirt off the coating, right? But a lot of these high alkaline products in the market, it would damage the coating. So it's like it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. Do I be extra gentle with it and not get the contamination off? Car's not beating, customer's unhappy. Or do I drop a nuclear bomb on it and get everything off? But now it's like, oh, the hydrophobics are diminished by 25%. It's like, you drive yourself crazy. And then, now flash forward 10 years later, you guys have dropped 3pH. And I think, and I hope we can get more into this in this podcast, like the thing that I'm still trying to learn more about is how your guys' products are able to be high alkaline and low acidity, but not damage things, like not damage the coating, and still be so highly effective at cleaning. Because I've seen other companies, they're taking a page out of your guys' book, right? They're like, oh, we need 3 soaps. We need a neutral, an acid, and an alkaline. And some of them on the market are okay, but they don't check all the boxes that your guys' 3pH system does. Meaning the acid, yeah, it might work well on a ceramic coated car, but if you have any sort of topper on it, say you're not somebody with ceramic and you just have like a sealant, something like that, it's going to just completely eliminate it. It kills it entirely. Or on the other hand, the alkalines, they're good, but they're so strong that you can't use it in direct sunlight. It can cause staining. It can cause all these problems. It's like, how is it that Purifica and Primus are able to clean the coating so well, yet be completely safe and not degraded over time, essentially?
Yeah. Technically, I'm not allowed to say anything about this because I'm not a chemist, but I know the guy, and we have talked about this a lot. And I've overheard some of the conversation that he had with other people that were also asking him these questions, and especially the question about how can something be that acidic and not corrosive. And so he explained to me that there's possibilities of buffering. Buffering means that you can give it a certain level of strength, but then you buffer it to a certain level so it cannot eat through. Because I believe if you see in the movies, when they throw a little bit of acid on something and then it keeps melting, in the Alien movie, it just keeps going through the spaceship, the acid blood of the Alien movie, and it's just keeping going through a spaceship. It's never stopping. This is what acids normally do. They don't stop until they are done with that, what is inside and making them the acid. So the buffering is one thing. And the other thing is, if you have been making acids for 50, 60 years, it's not like you have to start with a blank slate. You can already look at your entire menu and go through your entire line of acids and look on which one is already successful at doing what. So we already have something like, what's the name of the product again? It's the acid from Chromobril from Mafra. It's a very, very, very powerful acid. It's that one that you would fear in wrong hands. It's the one that you would not say, okay, I cannot use it on this, this, and this. But if you have a product like that, then you are going to reinvent that product by adding or changing something. So you already have a base. And if you have to start with nothing, so your company is now 2 years old and you decide, let's make a acid shampoo, you will be able to make an acid shampoo, but then it becomes very difficult to make one that is still acidic when you start diluting it. And if you look up the video of Labocosmetica, where we compare PURIFICA to not to their cleaning power, but to their acidic potential in dissolving minerals, then you see a clear jump. So from 1 to 10, everything is going in the right direction. And beyond 1 to 20, you see massive changes. And if you compare individual brands by each other, then you would say that 70% of them is not able to stay acidic. And what I mean is that they are acidic when you have the solution. But as soon as there is a contact of any form of mineral, the pH shoots up. And then shoots up so much that when you are using this product, it changes into an alkaline product when you are using it, making it useless for the job that you are using it for. If it's to unclog the ceramic coating, it's not doing anything. Wow. In fact, it's not even happening anything. And this is the video is long. I understand it's long, but we cannot make shortcuts by showing certain technology. Sometimes we have to sit down. It's the same as today. I could have made an official statement and read this story, but I want to give context to the things that we are saying. And especially from a person that was a disbeliever and then seeing actual proof of something happening and then starting to ask questions because they asked me to start working here. It's okay. I did some research first, family company. Okay, great. What's the heritage? Where is it coming from? What are the prices? If we would be a company that makes a product that costs us 10 cents and we sell it for 10 times, 100 times more. So we sell it for $10. Something is wrong. Then it's no longer about, then it's about making money, making the biggest margins. But in this company, when there's pride and passion, the name is on the bottle. So they really want something. They really want something changed. They want something real. And if you have so much experience making products like this, then Purifica is still an evolutionary, magnificent invention, but it could not have been done if this forework or this history was not there. If Mafra did not have those 50 years, it would probably be much longer before we have a formulation like Purifica. And for the details,
the details matter. I don't mean to interrupt, but I mean it's the one of the key takeaways I just took from everything you just said is just because let's say another brand of shampoo says acidic wash, the pH does not tell the full story. There's a whole lot more going on, like you're talking about the buffering and when it actually comes in contact with the lime scale. That's really interesting.
Yeah, because you and me know, we have done some playing around, some testing ourselves. For a fact that Purifica is absolutely useless against rust.
Right.
It does absolutely nothing. Although it's very acidic acid and very good. It's very good on the stuff in water and the calcium and the magnesium. That kind of a minerals, but not in rust from iron oxidation. It does nothing. And it shows you that not even an acid is generalized into, I can use one acid for all, because that would mean that you could use lemon acid or Coca-Cola although you can clean coins with Coca-Cola, I would say. It's a very good detergent to get stuff off metal. That is true. Monster, I've seen Monster being more successful in cleaning a tool cart than a brake cleaner. So, I mean, it's from saying that a product can do something to showing that it can do something to actually try to educate other people to do something. So, okay, yeah, this is how you use PURIFICA. Now we send Reggie, and then Reggie shows you how to use PURIFICA, and then Reggie will stay for you in the background to help you understand. Because now every time I tell this story, so when I told you this story or the philosophy or the history, then you had to make your story for your customer. So we started from manufacturer to trainer to distributor to customer. And then normally with you guys, there's you now as a distributor have a detailer in between. So you will have to give their information to your detailer, and your detailer will have to give the information to his customer to successfully using alkalines and acids and neutrals. Yep. And I think the biggest problem that we have is that our industry is unregulated. So it's a free profession. Anybody can become a detailer. Anybody. You can just start tomorrow, business chamber of commerce, even in my country, and you can use extreme harsh chemicals that need so many PPEs, and you don't have to use them because you are not educated. You are just doing what is hyped and what is cool and stuff. But for professional, there's a little bit more to it.
Yeah, and I've seen some efforts, to bring more standardization to the industry, more, accreditations, things like that. But I think there's still who knows? It may never get to that point, where it's always just going to be kind of a free for all, and it is what it is. I mean,
yeah.
But that's why education is just so key. And I've mentioned it on the first episode. I've mentioned it during this episode. Like, I have 100% been guilty, because you do something for so long, and you start to just make assumptions and think that you know things, and you just quickly glance at a label. You go, oh, acid wash. They do the exact same thing. So to that point, you use the analogy of like the lemon acid or cleaning the tool cart with Coca-Cola, things like that. The 3 pH that, going back all the way when I was like 16 years old, you would hear of guys using like wheel acid.
Yeah, I still hear that today.
And APC. And so, and I still see now, I still see people online saying, hey, we're going to cause this exothermic reaction. We're going to put, our APC on, our alkaline APC, and then we're going to spray acid on top of it and look at how effective it cleans. So talk to me a little bit about that. Like, it's kind of like you're saying, it's not just because it's acid doesn't mean that it's actually accomplishing the thing of cleaning the coating safely and not degrading the coating or any other surface on the vehicle.
Yeah. So this actually is good. So if you go online and you look for a guy named Andreas Schwarzinger, you will probably find some papers, I would say essays and papers explaining this to the letter. Swear to God, to the letter, because very few of these kind of people are still left speaking out, because in fact what they are doing is mixing chemicals. And with my high school science and chemistry, I have understood this as well. And truly, yes, there is, when you throw an alkaline to an acid, there's a neutralization going on and an exothermic reaction making some heat. And that heat is coming from a reaction between two things inside of the acid and inside of the alkaline. And the side effect could be CO2, could be ammonia, it could be many, many other things. And because you're not a chemist, you will not be able to identify what it is, maybe until it's too late. If I looked at my case in the car wash, when I was throwing chemicals onto each other, the separate chain reaction was ammonia gas. So ammonia gas in a car wash was not a good idea, especially with customers inside. Yeah. And this is based out of a hype. And then you see that there are people just trying to make a quick buck. That has nothing to do with trying to help people. It has nothing to do with trying to educate people, because how can a blind man lead another blind guy? How, if you don't understand it yourself, how are you then able to understand it to somebody else? I'm very hesitant trying to give chemical advice. Stick to the formulations on the bottle, stick to the dilution ratio, stick to the instructions. And if you follow that, God forgive, will not be many manufacturers that will go against their own instructions, but they will give you instructions to successfully use a product. And I think you have to take responsibility that every single step you make outside of those instructions are your own risk. So if their product says, don't let dry, direct sunlight, and cool surface, if you do one of those three you're not allowed to complain anymore. And it's the same if you start complaining about acids are dangerous, because I like that point that you said, use wheel acid. If I put Google on and I put wheel acid, there is no product in the world called wheel acid. It is always some form of an acid cleaning used for something. There was another guy who gave me some recommendation for a certain product. It had a very expensive name for everything, and then I read the bottle. It was just water and some acid. They mixed it themselves and they put a label on it: water and some acid. If there is this exothermic stuff is hyping. I understand now a little bit more about marketing, that there is something like clickbait, and there's also something like rage bait. Something that is going to make you want to click and make you want to feel an emotion. And then sometimes I see stuff, and I'm not going to lie, I also have some emotions sometimes, going like,
of course,
dear God, this cannot be happening. Are we going backwards in time? You know what I think about what it's looking like a little bit more and more? Like the movie Idiocracy? You know that movie? It's starting. It's real soon. People are going to put Gatorade on the grass and saying, "Why is it not growing?" Because I think Gatorade is quenches my thirst. But I love that movie. I swear to God, movie. But
not to get off topic, but sometimes with social media, it's hard for me to tell. Like, is it? And oftentimes this is from, the seller of the product themselves, whether it's a reseller or the manufacturer themselves or whatever, or just an online review from a customer or whatever it is. Is it because they don't understand? You don't know what you don't know? Or is it like what you're saying, where it's like, oh, I know better, but I'm going to promote this product as being able to do this thing when really it doesn't, so it's always hard to decipher through all that. But
and even in mixing. So if you need an acid, so you want to use an acid, you're all going to need an acid because you have identified the problem not to being organic. For example, you pre-wash first, you saw, okay, it's gone now after the pre-wash, meaning it was organic, but there's still something left. It's a white spot. I'm going to need to use an acid. So the acid is then for inorganic. Then what use is it to put the alkaline on top? Is it to neutralize? Is it to negate? Because if that is the case, then use a neutral product. If you're going to throw on something to make it neutral, why not use a neutral one instead? But it is to safety. Sometimes you could say, okay, in this paper, you can read it very well, but it doesn't matter if you neutralize it because the damage is already being done. Okay. It is a false psychological idea that by throwing on an acid or an alkaline product on an acid or the other way around, that it is then neutralizing and therefore you are reducing the damage. No, the damage has already been done. It goes in less than 2 seconds. And you can look my video up on the YouTube channel, the causticity. You see literally in 3 seconds with pure product that it's in 10 seconds, less than 10 seconds is already eating in the aluminum, making a permanent burn. It burnt the aluminum in less than 10 seconds. So if they throw it on 4-1 and I'm using 10-1 or 20-1, then they are already destroying the surface. It's just a false sense of security by throwing this on and hoping that then it's neutralized because nobody's checking. First of all, nobody's checking first. I've seen some guy checking, but they use the paper. Okay, cute. You use the paper. Then there's a possibility of foreign stuff. Paper, and by rinsing off, indeed, you see that by using just water, it's already neutralizing because the water is neutral. But everybody wants now to jump on the hype train with the exothermic reaction because it looks cool and my brake discs are fizzing and that's a nice side effect. Fizzing is not a good side effect, by the way. Most of it, and smoke definitely not. Fizzing and smoke is not a good side effect.
If you got fizzing and smoke during your wash process, need to reevaluate the process and the products for sure. And I do. Call me biased. Obviously, it's hard for me not to be biased, I guess, because I love your guys' stuff and we're selling it on a larger scale.
For me, same.
I can't help but feel like it's, you guys sort of started that wave. That's why we're seeing a lot of this content, is because it's, not to repeat myself, but it's like it's getting written off as like, oh, it's just alkaline acid. That's it. And look, we have an alkaline and acid too. So like we're going to solve the exact same problem. But as you've taught us, that is certainly not how that works. Another topic I kind of wanted to get into. Well, first, before I get into that, for those who are listening, we dove kind of right into it, but 1,000 feet up, surface level, why use 3 pH? Like it's, why do you need an acid and an alkaline, organic, inorganic? Talk a little bit about that, just for the people who are maybe completely unfamiliar with what 3 pH is.
Simplest one is the dishwasher. We have washing the dishes at home with Dawn. We heat up the water. We want that because the hot water makes the chemical work better. That's normal. It's called the Sinner Circle time temperature dilution mechanics. Other story, other podcast. Stay focused, Reggie. Alkaline is for organic. So using something that is coming from a living substance to be organic. Bug impacts, mud. There are a lot of things that are coming from a living substance. Mm-hmm. Those are where alkaline works. We have seen that in real life. And then we have the inorganic stuff coming from a non-living or never have lived before substance. So a piece of rock has never been alive. It's lifeless. It's inorganic. I think that clears it enough what inorganic. So anything mineral-based, iron, calcium, potassium, magnesium, salts by the way, but they are all minerals and they are therefore not living or never have lived before or cannot live, and therefore inorganic. And that category needs an acid, or needs at least a specific type of acid. Like I said, not all acids work the same on the same surfaces, and you sometimes need a different type of acid. And in those steps, so using them together, we already know that we can, because we negate them, we neutralize them, they turn into something else other than what they were. And the reason we are using an alkaline first is because the dominant visible contamination is the dirt and the mud and the bug impacts. And then that invisible contamination, that micro scaling, so to speak, that is invisible, and that you can only see with the behavior of the water. When the beautiful bead is not going in a straight line, but it starts finding its way in a very fast, difficult way to get down to the surface. And that kind of a contamination needs to then be specific addressed with an acid. And luckily, we made that acid that can do it to an extent, of course, because it's not a miracle product. It still has limitations, but proven to be effective for the last 8 years, and also proven not to be defeated yet in the last 8 years. So
awesome. Thank you for that. All right. I know you said it for another podcast, but I'm going to put it on the screen because I know we're going to bring it up in future podcasts. I'm sure we're going to revisit it. So let me, hopefully I can do this and not mess things up here. But it's just a great visual.
Mine is also, I mean, the one that I stole is also, everything I use is, this one I also stole. This basically comes from, I believe, a floor cleaning company, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
But this is one of the most simple ways to understand chemistry. And if you understand this, then everything in your life should become easier. You should save time, money. The one that we have discussing to add one, the user's factor, so to speak, different types of mechanical action. So using a chainsaw is a form of mechanical action. A hammer is also mechanical action, and a microfiber mitt is also mechanical action. But all of these three give a different level of friction.
Yep.
Where the mitt is probably the most delicate and the chainsaw the least delicate. But you can imagine that you can probably scrape off more with a chainsaw than with a microfiber mitt. But the Sinner Circle was made by Mr. Herman Sinner from Germany that was working for a chemical company. And he wanted to make a formulation that he can use by effectively cleaning any surface. This will also break the touchless rule. Everybody's talking also about touchless. Touchless does not exist or has not existed since 1956 after this guy invented this formulation. Yep. Because he knew already that you needed to physically touch, because not all dirt or contamination is stuck to the car or the surface by chemically. So some dirt is stucking statically. Statically. So different story, but there's another way where dirt can stick to a car. Now, the 4 factors into effectively using a chemical are time, or in this case, dwelling time, temperature. Temperature of the surface is not mentioned in this formulation, but in detailing, it's very important because it has influence on your chemical, if it's a hot surface or a cool surface. The temperature of the water of detergent you're using. If you use a little bit of hot water in a spray bottle on a freezing car, it doesn't make any sense. It's going to cool off too fast. But if you have a pressure washer with hot water, then the temperature becomes something very interesting.
Yeah, or like a steam cleaner or extractor, you're
your processing or your tools, they expand or reduce the cleaning capabilities. Then we have the chemicals, so dilution, 1 to 1, 1 to 20, the amount, and then the mechanical action, the form of friction. So take for example, if a company says I can use a chemical 1 to 10, and they say I have to use it on a cool surface, so it's going to be temperature low with cool water, logically, and then the dwelling time is 2 minutes. That means that if you go to 1 to 5 off label, you cannot leave it for 2 minutes, because at 1 to 10, it can leave it for 2 minutes. But if you do 1 to 5, you have maybe less than 1 minute because the chemical power has gone up. If then the temperature of the water became up, then you have even less time to use this chemical. And then there's absolutely no time to use any mechanical action because you will have to rinse it off. But if you have a wheel, let's say with example, we take a wheel and we take a wheel cleaner, and we are going to make the wheel cleaner in a dilution of 1 to 20, so light dilution. It's not a strong dilution. 1 to 10 to 1 to 5 are the stronger dilutions, sometimes even 1 to 3. If you have a high chemical usage, that means that the mechanical work should be very low. So if I'm using 1 to 5 wheel cleaning, and I see you guys bashing these wheels with these corkscrew brushes, some of you even take from a distance and dive into the wheel like a jousting with a knife into these wheel barrels. Yeah. And I know every single one of you that does this has never ever polished a set of black wheels.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
No, for sure. If you have done that, you will never touch your wheel again, and you will never take black wheels again. This guy.
Softest microfiber only for those. Yeah.
I mean, if you look at those wheels, you already scratch them, let alone if you start bashing them with these brushes, they have this twisted steel in the middle and then I think about these.
You'll get it clean. It's just going to be really scratched up.
Exactly. And if you take a 1 to 5 dilution and you use one of these cork brushes, then a 1 to 5 dilution is way too high. I rather see you use a neutral product with that kind of an agitation, mechanical action, because you're not letting the chemical do anything. So you spray the chemical on, you let it work for 5 seconds and start brushing. Doesn't work like that. It needs time. The longer it's on the surface, the longer it can work. But also the longer it's on the surface, the more riskful it could be. So it's a balance. More time, temperature. If you use this formulation, it has helped me incredibly. I mean, seriously, I use it in every single thing. And I have to use this for testing. If I have to do product testing, product comparison, I always have to do this. Even amount I do. So ceramic coating testing, I do I measure an exact milliliter of product and apply that. 1 milliliter, 2 milliliters, 3 milliliters, is even with time in between, to get data, to understand what is happening here. But this formulation works very successfully. You can implement this in your 3 pH wash. I'm outside. The car's not that dirty. I'm going to use a 1 to 10 dilution. I'm going to dwell it very long, so I don't need mechanical action. So if one of those factors in those inner circle goes up, one of them is going to go down. So more dilution means less time, less mechanical work. More time means less chemical work. And so this entire formulation stays in balance with each other. If one goes up, the other goes down. But they are in it.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, this is exactly what it's meant to be. This is exactly a framework, a system, a method that you can follow to keep success. Just like 3 pH, just like 2 pH, just like 2 pH plus, like 3 pH rinseless. All of them.
It's such a great system to use, and it brings logic to things. I mean, it's simple as that sounds, and it's unavoidable. Like, I don't care if you're cleaning fabric and carpets. I don't care if it's leather. I don't care if it's glass. You're polishing glass. You're polishing car paint. You're using the 3 pH system in this case. You cannot escape this circle. No. Like, it's impossible. The
basics.
Variables are there. Exactly. And I think a lot of people just don't think, and I'm guilty, especially earlier in my career, I would just kind of do things because I'm like, oh, this is what someone else does online, or this is just what sort of makes sense to me, is more is always better. Like I said earlier in the show, it's like I feel like we reward complexity sometimes a little bit too much. And it's like, we also have this mentality, especially here in America. It's like more is always better. So
bigger, better.
You really don't need to do that. And a lot of times you can actually get it done faster, safer, more efficiently with less product, so less money. It's just this is such a great system that you showed me here. So just wanted to throw that out there, and I'm sure we'll bring it back on future podcasts.
We'll not make a separate episode. We'll keep it under to repetition. We'll keep repeating it in some episodes, core episodes, where we then repeat this so it becomes familiarized.
For sure.
So we then have the 3pH. Now the 3pH is for to maintain protective cars. Organic for the pre-wash. Then we have the acid, PURIFICA to take off the lime scaling and the scaling, and the Semper, the neutral for the maintenance and the lubrification. But then we made another 2pH, another multi-pH, and this one was the 2pH. And the 2pH was, in fact, the same philosophy. When we think about the problems, what were your most occurring problems in doing interior detailing?
I was, in my career, interiors were not, we did a lot. My business gravitated more towards PPF coating. So like our interiors were the Mercedes that you came out, perfect example, right? Like most of my heavier interior work was older cars. So they weren't like your soccer mom van that's just absolutely demolished, full of mud and caked up like that, but it would be like, man, these carpets are they're old. They've clearly never been really cleaned. The color's just not there anymore. You can clearly see like where the floor mats had been, especially like in the lighter color interiors and stuff. It was a little bit darker there versus like the sides that were nice and clean. And I would typically struggle because I would tend to just grab a single fabric cleaner, and my results were very hit or miss. So sometimes they would come out great and I'd be really happy. And then sometimes it was like there'd be certain areas that just didn't come as clean. And so that's when I started kind of expanding more into like, okay, I need better tools, back to center circle, right? I'm like, let's add in some heat. So I tried like a carpet extractor for a while. Didn't really like that because the carpets got too wet. I mean, I'm personally a believer. I'm sure there are extractor models out there. I had a Mighty. It wasn't the cheapest one. It wasn't the most expensive one. It was a pretty commonly used one, but I'm sure there's some out there that have the suctioning power, but I never liked saturating the carpet like that. And especially that, if you've ever taken the carpets out of a car, you've got this foam liner underneath. I'm like, especially these old cars, very expensive old cars that we would work on. I didn't like doing that. You get the odor the next day, and there's some things that you can do to remediate that a little bit. But then I went into steam, used that for a while. That was probably the best middle ground for me. But then when you showed me 2pH and the brush technique beforehand and all that, I'm like, wow, this gets everything out, at least everything that can be removed, because obviously you have certain discolorations where you need to re-dye the fabric. It's permanently stained. But anything that can come out chemically is out. The carpets are dry, and Glico makes the carpets very soft, like as to where when I would do extraction or steam, no matter what, it's not like it permanently changed it, but definitely the next day. And I feel like probably for a while until people's feet kind of, pushed the carpet around and you vacuumed it a few times after, it kind of had that stiffness to it. It wasn't as soft.
Sturdy fabric. Yeah.
It was like the way it dried or something. It didn't sit well with me.
There was I tell you honestly, interiors were not my thing. Definitely not. This reoccurring of the white stains, in the back seats and the rest seats and the side seats and support parts every single time, and then you're cleaning the seat and you look at it and you're during the cleaning phase and you're looking at it and the fabric looks a little bit darker because it's a little bit wet, it gives that fresh feeling and you think, man, this is going in the right direction. And then 6 hours later when it completely dries, you see that freaking stain. Where did the stain come from?
I forgot about those days. Gosh, that is a very annoying problem.
It's almost too difficult to forget that we still have an era before Glico.
The outline.
Yeah,
which I'm sure there's terms for that. I'm not an interior expert, but or a fabric expert, but yeah, like the ring that you get the next day, sort of.
The water, it's basically just a huge water spot in the interior. Now, and when they started with developing the 2PAs, the similarities were the same. So they already knew we were going to use an alkaline for the organic stuff, and we were going to use acid for the inorganic stuff. But what is most dominant inside of that car? First, identify what is going on inside of that car. Now, the identification was really fast. 70% is inorganic. That is what we knew. We knew this, that it was 70% inorganic, so we needed an acid. We knew that already. We also knew that we needed to start with the acid first, because if 70% of the contamination inside of the car, mostly of the 70%, is inorganic, that means that 70% needs to be cleaned with an acid. Then came the challenge, but yes, okay, so this is fabric we're talking about. We're not talking about chemically resistant paint or stuff that has been made for the outside. Right. You're talking about what kind of an acid can you use to attack this inorganic contamination, but not light the seat on fire? And then came the research, and there were 5. I'm going to try to remember them, but it's Franco Lazzarotti, Erminia Casanova, Michael Jordi. They're going to shoot me for that. But there were other 2 as well. It's been too long since I mentioned their names, but they were the 5 key detailers that have been developing the glycol. So every single formulation that came out was being used, being tried by them under the guidance of Franco Lazzarotti, because Franco is our, what's it called? Its name is the ambassador. Yes, the ambassador here in Italy for the Italian speaking, so to speak. And he's the one that behind this brainchild. He's also the father of Omnia, if you want to talk it like that, because he has 3 daughters, and he calls Omnia, the interior cleaner, his brainchild, his son, the son of Frank. And they were starting to research which type of an acid was effective to this inorganic contamination, but was not harming the surface. And they ended up in don't laugh, skincare for female skincare. So in skincare products,
glycolic acid.
Glycolic acid and lactic acid. Yeah,
I've seen that on my wife's stuff before.
Yeah, me too. I checked it because somebody said, "Hey, it's a skincare product." Nobody can be voluntarily putting this stuff on their face. Yes, they are, and they are actually paying for it.
Wow.
So using this inside of glycol, then with testing and trituration and concentrating and checking out the balance, finding out that this was then effective. And then they realized another thing is that when we are eating something or drinking something in its form, when we are consuming it, it is different than when it dries up. It is totally different. A cup of coffee, for example, in a liquid form is something different than when it dries up. When it dries up, it's solid. There is minerals. There's a combination of organic and inorganic mixed to each other. Mm-hmm. And what we found out is that the acids inside of glycol are capable of breaking inorganic contamination that has been encapsulated by organic contamination, or the other way around. So, for example, I have Coca-Cola, and the Coca-Cola is liquid. So I got sugar, water, calcium, potassium, magnesium, carbohydrates, I don't know what else, and it's liquid. And then when it starts to dry up, you get a mixture. But if you now understand that inorganic is for non-living stuff and organic is for living stuff, if you have something that is encapsulated, so we have the organic being encapsulated by inorganic. If I use an alkaline cleaner right now, it's never going to break through that shell. So that inorganic contamination being trapped by the inorganic. So what I need is an acid to put on that contamination to free the inorganic contamination, then opening up the organic contamination so I can follow up with my fabric cleaner, and then everything is gone.
So that explains why, like, when you hit the carpets with Glico first, sometimes I've noticed there's like the obvious stains that you see, but then there's times where I'll clean an area with Glico, and then there's these little areas that sort of appear, which then you go through with Ductile and use that to remove the organic. So it's actually like freeing it, like breaking that capsule. That's crazy.
It's basically also a reaction. So it's the lightest form of an exothermic reaction because it's coming into contact with something that's making that reaction. The luminol effect, that when you spray and agitate or spray, sometimes you see it with the spray immediately. It's not something I like to say too much because it doesn't happen all the time. And if somebody is looking for this specific visual moment and it's not happening, they are thinking the product's not working. The product's working fine, but sometimes you get, like Nick says, a visual reference of that the product is actually doing what it needs to be doing. And that's absolutely fantastic because the luminol effect is beautiful to see. And it's also good to know that it's doing something. proving once again that the product is doing what it's told it to be doing. And what you said about that fluffiness, if you have something left in that fabric, be it water encrustation, be it surfactants left over from the previous, be it protective agents, being it, I don't know what else, but as soon as you start removing with 2 pHs, then all of these things are going to come out, and then you get left with nothing other than the substrate itself. So you feel the fluffiness of fabric as it was designed to be from day one. Also, but because of wear and tear, I mean, you know, the floor mats where your heel is resting, you know, you cannot restore that. That is wear and tear beyond.
Mm-hmm.
But there are possibilities where you can have a surface that looks degraded, but has never been exposed to friction, heavy friction. Those parts are definitely capable then of being restored by Glico by removing something that is there. Same with PURIFICA. You are removing something that you cannot see. That's why everybody was thinking, yeah, you are putting on a wax. No. Really, we are putting something off. We are pulling something off. We are not putting something on. And we do the same thing with Glico. You are taking something off. And that helps a lot with the understanding. And when you then, and 2 pH is the craziest one because that one saves you 40% of time. And by adding of the brushes, it also saves you chemicals. Yeah. So for me, it's the strangest thing to promote. I said, but somebody asked me, they said, but doesn't that brush mean you are selling less chemicals? I said, yes, it's exactly what it means. But it's not here to sell the more chemicals. We are selling here the system to speed up the process, to increase results without physical labor. So the money in the pocket of the detailer. Not extensive product usage, not extensive chemical usage, not extensive physical labor usage, but still incredible the results.
You know, a common theme I'm noticing with 3 pH and 2 pH is like you want to use the minimal effective path or minimal effective, you know, I hate to use weightlifting analogy, but we call it like minimal effective dose. Like you don't need to jump up in weights. If a little bit more will get you stronger, do a little bit more. So it's like, you know, you don't need to pull out 5 different chemicals. If you can just like the brushing, for example, you're basically taking the path of least resistance to getting to the end result rather than pulling out the extractor, spraying all these different chemicals in the carpet, getting it wet. I mean, you're just adding so many more variables.
Exactly.
It's like, you know, and I've noticed, especially with the exterior washing, people always think more is better, more steps is better, more chemicals is better. Yeah. To the point now that like I've seen brands come out with products, and I'm, you know, not calling names or anything, but so I apologize if the term I'm about to drop is the name of someone's product. It's not my intention, but like decontamination soap, you know, where it's like decontaminating what? You know, it's one? Like, yeah, it's like, is it,
which one?
Is it alkaline? Is it acid? Is it, you know, what is this doing? Because there's not this just one product that will just get everything off the surface. You have to understand, what am I dealing with on the surface? Is it organic? Is it inorganic? And what is my path of least resistance to getting it off? Because obviously if you have light water spots on your coating, and even like in Marco's description, a lot of times they're not visible. You just notice that the coating's not beating. It would be illogical to go straight to a claying and polishing. You know, yeah, you're going to get the water spots off, but now your coating is gone. So it's just, it's the center circle thing is really helpful. And also just being logical, thinking about like, what am I actually dealing with here? And not just defaulting to, okay, I need to use everything. Or like when you see people prep washing vehicles using 3 pH, I'm like, that's great. You know, I love to see people using Labocosmetica, obviously, and using the 3 pH system, but I'm like, what you're doing is not really logical, because you're about to clay the car, you're about to polish the car, you're going to get ready to coat it. You know, why are you doing this 3-step process that's for maintenance? And even you see it too on the maintenance side of things. Like people, I had a customer and he's fully bought into Labo now. He loves it. And for the first probably 2 months, you know, I sold him the 3 pH, and to my own fault. You know, I was caught up with something in the shop at the time. He was here buying it in person. Kind of gave him a very brief explanation. I said, hey, we'll catch up later about this. You know, I want to explain these products more to you. And so a couple of weeks passes by. We ended up not talking. He's one of those people, he washes all the time, like sometimes twice a week. He is that crazy about his car. works from home. He can do that. So he's like, man, I love this stuff. He's like, God, it takes forever. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, he was using all three every single time he washed the car. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, don't do that, So it's like, then I explained it to him and he's like, oh, okay. Like that makes sense. It's like minimal effective dosing for what you're doing, whether that be dilution, how many products you're using and things like that. So another topic I'd like to get into, since we're already on it, and I know this is probably a big topic in it itself, but PRELUDIO, 3pH rinseless. That is just I mean, we got to talk about that. Nobody else has that. So
yeah,
explain to everybody what that is.
Exactly the same philosophy. We already knew, okay, you need something to touch the car with. We already knew. We knew we need something inorganic. For acid, we knew it. But now for rinseless. So what rinseless is? Rinseless is mostly done outside, in direct sunlight, on hot surfaces, in stranger situations. So the no water usage. So how are you going to implement the same philosophy that we did with the original one versus now the rinseless one? Now, the first one was to understand how this rinseless washing is working. Then we saw the same thing, where people were using the rinseless itself in a dilution of 1 to 256 to pre-spray the car to start a degreasing phase or emollient phase or softening or whatever. Now, these years, because of introducing alkaline again, people are starting to realize that neutral is doing absolutely nothing, almost nothing. There's a reason alkalines and acids are there, because if it was enough, then neutral would only be there, but it's not. There is more necessity. And for the difference with rinseless, so that you don't have the choice of using water. You don't get to rinse, so you have to change surfactants. So Primus can never be used as a spray-on wipe-off product because it's a pre-wash. The name says it, the pre-wash. It needs to be washed off. It needs to be rinsed off, either with garden hose pressure. It needs to be going away. Nothing is left behind. It needs to be is allowed to be left behind. But when you're using a pre-soak, so a pre-soak is the same as a pre-wash, but then without the addition of water. So a wipe is enough to remove everything from the product. So a wet microfiber towel, a wet rinseless towel is then enough to remove everything of the pre-soak, in this case, the PRELUDIO alkaline. Now, the second one was a little bit of a challenge because we cannot cheat like with PURIFICA, where we have a lot of water and a higher concentration and more perfect conditions where people are normally washing the car. So now making an acid product, VDA certified, suitable to do what the rinseless is doing. Now, if you compare the original 3pH versus the 3pH rinseless in detergent power, the difference is too huge to compare them to each other. But if you look at rinseless washing, where people are using a neutral product to pre-spray the car, then we are 1,000 times more effective. Especially when you know you're not damaging the surface, especially when you know when you have a ceramic coating that you can still safely use this without harming it. You can watch the outdoor detailer, Mike, making a video about the practical situation where he's using it as a maintenance wash on a ceramic coated car with his own dilution ratios and his own vision about how to use this. Fantastic. If you use it this way, that means that man understands. I've done demonstrations live with him in 1 to 5. When he was at his home situation, he figured out I can use it 1 to 10 and be as equally as successful half of the chemicals. Because the problem is, and this is what the biggest challenge was with 3pH rinseless, is that everybody thought it was a system. I have to use them all the time. But assessing the situation is more important than following a strict rule. So if you are a weekly washer and you have not driven very much, there are not going to be a lot of bug impacts. It's not going to be a lot of mud. It's not like a lot of dirt. That means that you don't need PRELUDIO. Again, it's a product that you hang on the bucket of your rinseless wash that you are going to use when you need it. When something is really dirty.
Section by section. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's a back just behind the door, or you hit one pothole with dirt on the car and only the right fender and the right door on the right side of the car has mud on it and the rest of the car is completely clean, I'm not going to pre-spray PRELUDIO all over the car. It's a problem that I want to get rid of, and my PRELUDIO is my solution. So that solution is only necessary at the problem. So I use it on the spot where it needs to be used, wipe it off, and then be done with it. Now, during the development, we saw a lot of the original culture by pre-spraying the rinseless, then adding the rinseless, then washing the rinseless, and then using a lot of lubrification. So people were, instead of wiping off the PRELUDIO, they were thinking, okay, maybe I can combine this already with my rinseless that already has some extra lubrification inside. more than Preludio, of course, because Preludio is more cleaning than lubrification versus a rinseless that is more lubrification than cleaning.
Right.
What, of course, makes sense because it has to be in balance with each other. If it's cleaning really hard, something has to give when you start moving this out of the equation. And that's how the rinseless Preludios were born, as an addition. Now, PURIFICA Primus, I would say you can use any neutral shampoo to substitute inside of 3 pH, but Primus and PURIFICA make it the 3 pH. You can say that you have an acid shampoo, an alkaline shampoo, but you cannot call it 3 pH because, say you make Nutella, but you make something else, but you make like Nutella. There's only one Nutella. There's only one Ferrari. There's only one Armani. There's only one 3 pH.
Right.
And for the
sorry.
No worries. But for the 3 pH rinseless, in terms of detergent power, that for me was the rinseless itself. It's more opinion based. What people think about a rinseless. It's not science based. These Preludios are science based. There's nothing to compete with them. You cannot debate about not them cleaning because if you spray, you immediately see them working. And I've done miracles with this stuff. I've done miracles with the stuff that can even become dangerous for other labochemicals. That you would say, is it that successful in that range? Yes, it is. It's not up to me to find it out. It's not me.
So a couple things come to mind, like my customer who was using the full system every single wash, and you mentioning how with Preludio, that Preludio is commonly misunderstood. It is, and it's unfortunate because I'm glad we're educating people, because it is just, if you're a rinseless person, it is absolutely life-changing. But you can treat just the specific areas of the car, like Reggie said. So you make your rinseless, you hang a bottle of both Preludio acidic, Preludio alkaline on your rinseless bucket. And as you're moving around the car, because that's how you do a rinseless wash, you're washing and drying typically a couple sections of the car at a time or whatever. When you come across an area of contamination, what is it? Is it organic? Is it inorganic? I'm going to treat it accordingly, wash that section, dry it, move on to the next. You can actually do the same thing with the standard 3 pH. You don't have to, you don't have to foam the entire car down because you've got faint water spotting on the hood, the roof, and the top of the trunk from, rainwater or whatever it is. You can put some in a spray bottle and PURIFICA, put it on those sections, let it dwell, agitate it, rinse it off. You just saved yourself a tremendous amount of time. So it's just being methodical about what you're doing and then not just, kind of going through the motions. And the reason I brought this back up is I was guilty of this. I think anybody who's used rinseless in the last 10 years is guilty of doing the pre-treating the whole car with pH neutral rinseless, which if you're following this system, which you cannot avoid, it makes absolutely no sense. Rinseless washes, correct me if I'm wrong, they're by and part mostly just water, right? I mean, like a pH neutral rinseless is like 99% water. So it's like, okay, I have a car that's covered in oil, dirt, grease, inorganic contamination, water spot, whatever. I'm going to spray pretty much water on it that has lubrification in it, some emulsifiers, some polymers, whatever. And I'm just going to let it sit. And the kind of the message that got pushed on social media and stuff like that was, well, it's encapsulating the dirt, pulling it off the surface, dragging it down, which, to be fair, there's probably a certain degree of truth to that. But, to what extent? Probably not a whole lot, because you're lacking the fourth section here, chemical. There is no chemical action. You are spraying essentially water on the car. Temperature, I suppose maybe there's some people out there that were warming up their neutral rinseless pre-soak. I don't know, maybe not.
Definitely helps. Definitely helps, 100%.
Time, yes, obviously a lot of like rinseless washing. I always do it inside, because why not? You don't have to deal with the sun or whatever if you have the ability to do that. So time is like a huge one. You can let it sit for as long as you want. But again, the chemical action is so weak. You could sit there and put a chair up and let it dry in the car. And it's not going to just sit there and pull more contamination off the car. So you're basically just using the third quadrant here of mechanical action to remove the dirt. So the
Yeah.
pre-soak is essentially doing nothing. Like until Preludio came out, your only workaround was to spray like an APC or something on there that actually had the chemical action and hope that, okay, I'm going to use my rinseless to get this off sufficiently, which I never was a big fan of that because I was always worried. Obviously, I'm leaving a film, I'm leaving residue. And now with Preludio, it's designed to do that. And God, it's super effective, man. Like to me, Preludio made rinseless go from this kind of, there's only this like kind of one specific circumstance where, in my opinion, it's safe to do it on a coated car, that's been maintained well, to now you've kind of widened the usage range, because it's like, well, now we can actually, and I've seen it, we've done it tons of times here at the shop. Like you got bugs and dirt and crap all over a car. You can actually effectively pre-treat those things. You can watch it have the chemical action. It breaks it down, and then you rinse it off and it rinses away easily. And I mean, it's a absolute game changer. And like Reggie mentioned, you can use whatever pH neutral wash you want in the bucket rinseless wash. You don't have to use HydroSave.
No.
So it's basically, it's supercharging your rinseless process by bringing the 2 pH into it.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a problem. It's a solution for a problem. So if that problem is not there, then you will not need a solution, and therefore you will not need gallons and gallons of this stuff. Because if you need gallons and gallons of this stuff, you might need to change your interval to make sure that the car is that dirty. And if it's not possible, then you maybe have to move to something else. But there is, and there always will be, a more effective solution. I'm not going to say it's a bad. To say rinseless is bad is not true, because there are many worse things that you can do to wash your car other than rinseless. If you say bad, then you have to go to the basics and say, if I put pure magma on a car with a stick, that is also a form of car wash. But in this case, there are many other things that are even worse. So say bad, then let us say effective versus less effective, more effective and less effective. I think that is more generalized. Everybody can get behind that. It's effective, yes, but I don't have any water. Okay, shit, then rinseless is more effective. So you become more positive, because the saying is bad or it's wrong, it's right. And if you know all variables and all factors, then you can might say very wrong or right. But if you don't have all the information, wrong and right, man, my God, it's very black and white. A little bit too black and white. Especially in freaking detailing. My God. I wonder the last 4 or 5 years since I've been making videos, how many videos are already obsolete? If a video of 5 years ago, I said 5 years ago, I said something that was at that moment revolutionary. And then I said it, and it was revolutionary. Now, 5 years later, is it still relevant? Or is it actually been fake news? Or did I promote something that was actually not true? Did somebody trick me, or was I tricked?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just part of having an open mindset and be willing to have your mind changed over time. I mean, that's a...
Just convince me, please. That's the only thing I need.
Yeah.
I need proper proof, proper convincing, and I'll be on board. And it's true, because if I will be the first one to admit my own mistakes. I will also be the first one to admit the stupid things I've done. The good thing is that I'm not doing these things anymore. So it's the repeated stupid stuff doing. All these things I did was fairly unique, stupid shit.
Yeah, that's how you learn. That's how we all learn. I mean, anybody who's never made a mistake, I don't think they're getting many things done, right?
If you're making mistakes, that means you're learning. That's the way to move forward. If everybody did it, nobody does it perfectly the first time. Or you are too easily satisfied. It can also be, I did it first try. Another guy would say, let's do it again, see if we can do it better. Two different types of persons, two mentalities, two results.
For sure. I learned that hands-on when I got into like the higher level of paint correction, like sanding and stuff like that. And then also with PPF, it was like you had to be willing to make mistakes and learn. That's the only way. So one question I have for Preludio, wheels and tires, because logically in my mind, I think, okay, Preludio acidic, brake dust, iron, acid, inorganic, Preludio alkaline, we got tires, usually inorganic. Like, is that logical, or is that not how that system is designed to be used.
No, but this one also, the most dominant one on the wheels is dirt and mud and stuff like that. And then comes the special stuff like the brake dust and the lime scale. So alkaline will always be most dominant used on a wheel cleaner forever. And then the acidic versions become more niche, or when the wheel has been neglected in a way that you will have to use these products because there's simply no other way other than the strong chemicals to get these wheels back to where they need to be.
So in a rinseless scenario, because I have customers like this all the time that for whatever reason, whether they're professional or do it DIY, they have to do rinseless. So is Preludio acidic going to effectively dissolve and remove brake dust, or is it not? Is it just strictly for the paint?
No, okay. I've tried it many times on water spots, on PPF on water spots. They were very successful, but rusty type of a thingy, no. Just like PURIFICA will not do anything on the rusty type of thingy. And I can imagine that you don't want to use an iron remover in a rinseless operation because there's no water to rinse off the skank, you know. Yep. So I understand. Yep. I understand. But also, if rinseless washing is already difficult for me, but rinseless washing wheels is really difficult.
It's like, yeah, I mean, the EVs, the Teslas, stuff like that, sure. You know, especially if you're using the whatever it's called, the regenerative braking, where you're not actually just using the electric motor to slow the vehicle down. Like those, depending on your commute, how you drive, whatever, I see those all the time where I'm like, look, man, you don't really need to be using like an iron removing wheel cleaner every time, and your wheels are basically just have a little bit of dirt on them. You know, just use like a Primus 2.0, or I guess if you're rinseless, use like a Preludio alkaline. But that's good information to know. So in a rinseless setting, in terms of wheels and tires, Preludio alkaline is kind of where the buck ends. Okay.
Yeah. I don't. If somebody, if you're willing to test and try out, let me know. And then please state your parameters where you tested with time, temperature, dilution, mechanical action, out of that. And then please send me a video as well. Do not send me a text because I cannot believe text. It's difficult. Hi, Reggie, I was doing this and this. No, I don't believe you. I need a video.
If it wasn't on video, it never happened, right?
Yeah, exactly. We need video. Need a video.
Was it Preludio or was it PURIFICA that I saw someone using it as like in their clay lubricant at one point? I know this is off-label use. This is not, you know.
Yeah. I've done it just to see if it is possible and if it doesn't affect because you're mixing. I mixed Lubrifica and Preludio together. Now Lubrifica is neutral. The dilution was like 1 to 20 of both, so a little bit of both. After we rewatched the video, I'm not going to say that the chemical in this case was a dominant factor, but this was an assistant factor. So I was using a clay bar. That clay bar generated friction and removing contamination, and the acid inside was already very light and then diluted with something that was already neutral. So in this case, I was using it to get around edges, to prep the edges, pre-prep the edges for the PPF. And in this case, then it became not the time and the temperature, but in this case, it was the chemical and the mechanical action together. You can do this also with what's it called, Sidero, as an iron remover. You spray the iron remover on, you clay at the same time. You basically do the same thing. You're letting the iron remover work. You clay to hopefully remove the iron and the iron particle at the same time. Or you're using the iron remover to identify the source of the iron particle that is sticking in the paint with
so
a
that you
purple
can
line.
Clay just that area, not
exactly.
Yeah. But Sidero has the lubricity to be safely used as a Okay, nice.
But you will lose your clay bar, so it's a single use. I never use the full bar. I use a little pancake of a clay bar, and it's going to be, if it dissolves, it probably is going to dissolve during the operation. At the end of the operation, probably holding nothing in my hand instead of a light blue, black glove that's sticking the fingers to each other.
You know, it's funny. I've had multiple over the last 10 years detailers I've worked with that thought it was so strange when I broke off a piece of the clay.
Yeah,
they would use like half the piece of clay. I'm like, dude, like I'm using like, you know, and then it gets whatever contaminated. I'll discard it, break off a new piece. I'm like, not to get off topic, but
exactly like that.
So I'm trying to think. I mean, I feel like I've asked everything. The last question I sort of have for you is, do you feel like 3 pH is the pinnacle of ceramic or nano protection maintenance for the perpetuity? Is there something that you see in the future that could be like added to it or like make it even better than it already is? Because I'd say right now it absolutely reigns supreme. But is there room for like further advancements with it?
I don't think in PURIFICA, right now, what is available in the world in surfactants range, or what is known to be available right now, and maybe that is a better phrase to say, because it could be that it's already existing, that particle, but we haven't found it yet.
Mm-hmm.
The surfactant that we are looking for. Maybe we don't even know that we are looking for it yet. So if the possibility is there, if the technology improves, but I think that what is happening in the ready-to-use range of Labocosmetica, those combination of chemicals, the Varius, the Initio, the Dexia, those formulations, that I think is going to be the future, where you can clean. Now we're using separate three things. We are using acid, we are using solvents, and we are using alkalines. But there will be a time where we are going to combine three aspects of one product, and we already did it with Varius, and it's now at a ready-to-use level. Same with Dexia. It's almost three things in each other. It's more, I'm not saying there is acid, alkaline, and solvent inside, but some of those three, so our alkaline part has inside, there is something acidic inside, they it be surfactants or I don't know what else, and then something alcohol or something solvent inside. And that is right now a combination that the world has never seen before in this concentration, because we are at the concentrated level. Right now we cannot go any more concentrated, so we are stuck at ready to use. Say it, yes, the most revolutionary ready to use products the world has ever seen at this moment, because in the future I know for sure we will figure out how to make them concentrated, and imagine a Ductilate 2.0 that is able to take off certain inorganic contamination. I'm not saying the same level as this, because we already had a product that can do the same. It could degrease and take limescale off at the same time. The Glico is similar, can also take some organic contamination off.
It definitely does. I mean,
it does something. It's the highlight.
Carpet, yeah.
Not only, it's dominantly, yes, the acidic one, because it is born for the purpose to take off the inorganic acidic part. Mm-hmm. And now we will find out the reasons to combine two of them together. So say that the potential of what an acid can do, if that can be put inside a alkaline product, you will not need two different pH products. You will need that single product that has the capabilities of do both. That is the biggest change that we will see. I'm confident that in the next few years we will see something. And if it's capable of cleaning, we reinvent the system again. And you start finding out that the word APC is going to get a new definition. You're going to get an alkaline APC, you're going to get a solvent APC, an acidic APC, and it's going to expand even more. And then you get these combinations. And maybe it's a good idea to dive a little bit more into these things, because I think in the future it's going to be more important to understand a little bit more about how to explain this, because I'm now it's becoming so complicated to understand what those guys are telling me, and let alone for me to make a repeatable story that I understand, that is capable of explaining to you so that you also understand. But it's good that I understand, but now it's my mission to make you understand. And if that transfer of information is not accepting in your party, you're not understanding what I'm saying, then we are not going to get on common grounds, and it's going to get even more crazy online. You get these even more crazy, hypey, stuffy kind of things that are happening with these more terminology. It's already flipping all over the place. It's hard to understand still what an APC truly is.
Well, I mentioned it earlier on the podcast, but you see these people that come out with the decontamination soap or whatever, and it's like it's kind of implying the same thing, right? It's like this does everything. Yeah, but that's not with the current technology, the current resources that are available. That does not exist. It's
not yet, at least not yet.
Right. And so with Varius, like, is that, and I'm just curious for my own sake, I mean, what is the pH of Varius if it has all those different ingredients in it?
Very good question, because if you have one of the solvent type of a family inside, then you cannot measure the pH anymore. You can only measure the pH of a liquid in water. So soap and water, either being acid or alkaline. But you cannot, if there's any form of alcohol or solvent inside, you can no longer get a valid pH reading. You can read that it's alkaline, you can read that it's acidic, but because of the content of a solvent inside or a solvent base something, then it's impossible to measure the pH.
It's a false reading, basically.
Yeah, same if you look up Veritas, SDF Veritas, it has no pH because it's solvent. So solvent doesn't have a pH.
Okay, cool.
Oh, it does have a pH, but it's not measurable because of the solvent inside. Yeah, because the ions are being distorted. Something like this. And another too technical phrase that I don't know anything about.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's I'm always interested in learning. I mean, I'm not a chemistry buff. I just 99% of my knowledge comes from just the actual use of these products over the last, I say 10 years as a business, but really it's been much longer than that. So, so it's always interesting for me to learn more about that where I can, but it starts to go over my head at a certain point.
Same here.
So that's really everything I have, man. I mean, is there anything else that you wanted to go over as far as 3 pH, 2 pH? I mean, I feel like we did a really deep dive here.
Yeah, I got some because after the launch of this podcast, the day of recording today, it's 10 February 2026. Happy birthday, my little sister Jessica. Just in case I said it. Now I said it. My video I recorded Sunday. Did I record Sunday? At least yesterday. So I recorded that 3 pH video yesterday, 9 February. That video is going to come after this. When this podcast comes online, immediately after that, I will put this link. I will make sure that everything is findable so that video is findable. After that, I'm not the guy to do it. And I'm also a Dutch guy, so I hate giving stuff away for free. But I want to make something today. I want to give the opportunity to the listeners that if they have seen this video, this 3 pH video, if they can make a clip, a sequence of something similar with the 3 pH. So with PURIFICA Semper, a rejuvenation of wax, a rejuvenation of a ceramic coating. If you can prove it in that video, and please do the effort to prove it. Don't make any fake results. Please do it. I will give you 1 gallon of Primus 2.0, 1 gallon of PURIFICA, and 1 gallon of Semper. Yes. This is my first giveaway ever. I've never done a giveaway before. I've participated in giveaways, but I'm going to give it away. And I think 4.5. And maybe I'm going to sweeten the deal even more. I'm going to put the HPC 2.0 in there as well. Because 3 pH is for protected cars. So we'll give you a bottle of protection that you can put on the car and then maintain with the 4.5 of all those 3.
Okay.
Yes. David, if you're watching, then you know. No, I will pay for that myself. Don't worry. I'm a Dutch guy. I put my name to my word. I will pay for that myself. All
right. Well, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Free.
Yeah, a real
it's a hefty
clip,
giveaway.
10 seconds, 30 seconds. If you can make it happen, if you want to be in front of the camera, I don't care. But information, dilution ratio,
before, during, after.
Yeah, please. And the most beautiful one, there's no criteria for anything. So if you want to boost it up with editing and you want to hire somebody, I don't care. Backstory is not necessary. It's simply about naked, cold, hard proof of that video showing a good before and after the use of a 3 pH. And if this becomes more successful, if this becomes too big, I will extend the prizes. So if we find out that too many people are sending in stuff, then I make sure there will be more prizes because hard work needs to be rewarded.
We're going to clip that. That's going to get shared.
Oh, fuck. This is being recorded. Marco is seeing.
Awesome, man. Well, Reggie, thank you so much. I'm sure we're going to get a plethora of really great questions from this podcast. And as always, man, it's impossible for me to have a conversation with you and not just learn a lot in the process. So I can't wait to go on to the next handful of topics of Labo. We'll decide what that is. What the next chapter is going to look like. But thank you so much for your time today, man.
Mel, it was same here. Thank you for making the time. This is a collaboration that I'm very happy to be a part of, and I can't wait to see what we can pull off in your beautiful country.
That's it, man. That's it. Well, for everyone watching, if you want to get your hands on some Labocosmetica, check out the US website. You can also check out Parks Car Care or any of our excellent resellers who also stock the products. Feel free to check out their sites as well.
Clean Garage, Auto LED, Delta Pro Custom, LI Detail Supply, Supreme Shine Supply, Fine Detailing Arizona. I think I have them all. I don't know for sure.
That's good. I'd have to check my list because it keeps growing, honestly. I mean, it really does. I mean, every week like this past week, I think I signed up 2 more guys, but I've got it segmented out by brick and mortar versus online. So we're actually getting a lot of brick and mortar guys too, which is awesome. I love that, you know, small business by definition. It's great to see people reaching out to the brand. So, so yeah, that's where you can find it. And as always, if you guys have any questions, you can DM our Instagram, any of our socials, whether it's TikTok, Instagram. You can email us. You can text me if you have my number. Leave a comment here on the YouTube video, and we will make sure to answer your question.
100%. 100%. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Awesome. Thanks, Reggie. See ya.
Ciao, guys. Ciao. Ciao,
Peace.